Basement level vibes with another one, straight up blackness. Aye. Who tell the truth? Mark Benscop, defend the ghetto youth. Mark Benscop, radio station is the fruit. Mark Benscop, straight up from the root. Mark Benscop, who tell the truth? Mark Benscop, defend the ghetto youth. Mark Benscop, radio station is the fruit. Mark Benscop, straight up from the root. Mark Benscop, I do it for the love, him not do it for no money. Straight up, him attack, educating everybody. Big up my friends and big up my family. Turn on the radio, catch the vibes, it's integrity. Straight up, Benscop stands for unity. One people, one nation, one destiny. Free up the truth in the air, even the blind can see. The deaf can hear, the dumb can talk, the cripple can walk. Boom. Who tell the truth? Mark Benscop, defend the ghetto youth. Mark Benscop, radio station is the fruit. Mark Benscop, straight up from the root. Mark Benscop, who tell the truth? Mark Benscop, defend the ghetto youth. Mark Benscop, radio station is the fruit. Mark Benscop, straight up from the root. Mark Benscop, we have to gather wrong, grab a seat and sit down, pay attention. Education, liberation, we have to stand strong. Benscop, the on the radio, lively up the program. Everybody call somebody and let them turn and tune and on the radio and catch the boom song. We boom it up already, we have to boom it up again. Expose and reveal him. Who tell the truth? Mark Benscop, defend the ghetto youth. Mark Benscop, radio station is the fruit. Mark Benscop, straight up from the root. Mark Benscop, who tell the truth? Mark Benscop, defend the ghetto youth. Mark Benscop, radio station is the fruit. Mark Benscop, straight up from the root. Mark Benscop, I do it for the love, him not do it for no money. Straight up, him attack, educating everybody. Big up my friends and big up my family. Turn on the radio, catch the vibes, it's integrity. Straight up, Benscop stands for unity. One people, one nation, one destiny. Free up the truth in the air, even the blind can see. The deaf can hear, the dumb can talk, the cripple can walk. Boom. Who tell the truth? Mark Benscop, defend the ghetto youth. Mark Benscop, radio station is the fruit. Mark Benscop, straight up from the root. Mark Benscop, who tell the truth? Mark Benscop, defend the ghetto youth. Mark Benscop, radio station is the fruit. Mark Benscop, straight up from the root. Mark Benscop.
This is attorney Shellen Washington, owner and founder of the Washington Law Firm, located at 455 Utica Avenue in Brooklyn, New York. We're specialized in medical malpractice, personal injuries, matrimonial law, and landlord and tenant. If you're in need of legal representation, please give us a call today. The number to call is 718-877-3100. Consultation is free at no cost to you, so call us today to see if we can be of any assistance to your legal needs. Again, the phone number to call us is 718-877-3100.
All right, let's get ready to rock and roll right away. We have some serious business to talk about, the usual thing in Guyana and how people are punishing. All the peoples of Guyana are punishing and are being taken for granted by the corrupt installed PPP regime. And now let's get this point very, very clear, because I've noticed that there seems to be an agenda in terms of an attempt to say that all Guyanese are suffering equally. And now all Guyanese are suffering. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. But the position when anyone, and as my friend Civic would agree, anyone who tries to equalize the punishment and saying that African Guyanese are being punished, yes, but so, they oftentimes come with this nonsense. But so are all other Guyanese. In other words, to hell with what you're talking about. African Guyanese are suffering, but the people in Black Bush Polar are not just East Indians. They're all sort of Guyanese living in Black Bush Polar. I know that firsthand. And so when we say that African Guyanese are being targeted specifically by this installed PPP regime as a result of their ethnicity, and that's the point. And I want you guys to listen carefully. Guyanese of African descent are being targeted specifically as a result of their ethnicity. That is why they're being targeted. Other Guyanese who do not support the PPP regime, and that includes of other ethnicity, they are also being targeted as a result of their political affiliation. And that is a form of discrimination as well, on a political level. But on the level of one's ethnicity, when a regime is targeting a group of people as a result of their race/ethnicity, therein lies a very serious problem that could lead to ethnic cleansing of a country. That is where the danger lies. And so I don't want anybody to jump up and try to be politically correct. Oh, African Guyanese are suffering. We accept and we admit that. But all Guyanese are suffering too. Note, and those who are on a mission to just ignore, oh, yeah, Africans are suffering, Guyanese, but all of us are suffering. Of course, all of us are suffering. Nobody's denying that. Absolutely no one is denying that. Anyway, sorry that I started off like that. My name is Mark Benchap, and welcome to Straight Up. Spread the word. Spread the word. Spread the word. Neville Seatel, good evening to you, sir. Here's what Neville is saying. Mark, Madhya Region 8, Post Office doesn't have money to pay since Friday. And oil-rich countries, I don't know where the money's going. I have an idea. You guys have an idea where the money's going, right? They're stealing the money. And you have ExxonMobil spending millions upon millions of dollars. And when I say millions upon millions of dollars in U.S. currency, millions upon millions of dollars in U.S. currency, they're stealing it. What else can we say? The regime of the day is stealing your hard-earned money from the little crumbs that you're getting from ExxonMobil. So what Neville Seatel is saying here, and good evening, Neville, to you and your family, Amit, and your grandkids and so forth. Look at what Madhya, the pensioners do not have money because Jagdev and Irfan, they're thieving the money, your taxpayers' dollars, and they're giving it to friends and cronies. That's what they're doing. Friends and cronies. That's what they're doing. Thanks to all of you who are speaking out. My brother Seatel, Neville Seatel, was on the show the other day, and he spoke about injustices. He stood up and he fought against that injustices on behalf of his fellow African Guyanese brothers and sisters. He understands the discrimination. He's not lumping it and saying, we're all being discriminated against. He knows that. He suffered. His family suffered as a result of standing up on the side of his African brothers and sisters. Seatel did that, an Indian brother, because he understands the danger when any government/regime or whatever, when they're targeting a particular group of people as a result of their race, as a result of their ethnicity. That is what the PPPC is doing. Now, they may argue differently, of course. They would want to argue differently and say, oh, we're not discriminating against Black people or persons of African descent. Oh, we're not discriminating. Look, we give a couple of contracts. We give a couple of cutlass, a couple of shovel to some guys in Buxton. We give a contract of about $350 million to some Black guys out in Linden to build a school. Speaking of building that school, they might as well give me that contract, give Sital that contract, give Gladys Prasad that contract, give Lynette, is it Ziffer, or even give Desiree Simons, and you give Raul Chalmers, right? Is it Chalmers? Give them UC Rogers, give them the contract. You'll see how fast that's finishing. The school is going to be done. Plus, we'll build a couple of extra toilets outside, bathrooms outside, all manner of things. But the guys they give the contract to build a school in Linden, they can't finish it. It's not even quarter completed. They put up a couple posts, they could put up whatever, little cement blocks, and that's it. And find out who is the so-called foreman. A guy who was part of Guy Oil, who had to resign because of high-level corruption. Corruption. So these are the sort of people from African descent. They're throwing a cast net and they're catching them. Now, I'm not calling anybody slave catcher or whatever, but they're throwing a little cast net and they're catching a couple of them, bring them in, dress them up in red and say, by the way, this is burgundy. Dress them up in red and all manner of things. They throw the cast net in New Amsterdam. They're dragging in one right now. They're dragging in one about 90 or 100 or something years old, and they're dragging she in right now. She get catch because she promised that she's going to bring in 50 persons from Tuckburn and give it to them. Sorry about that. I didn't mean to laugh. But good evening again. Thank you guys for sharing the link. And let's continue with the links. Thank you so much, Neville. I noticed earlier that some comments I've been reading. Lyndon Fraser, Evans, and all you folks, do spread the word, share the link, let folks know that we're on. Sorry I had to give you guys a kind of energy, bubbly energy, and then you share the link. And then sounds like that madman they have in Guyana by the name of Jack Deere, right? Jack Deere is watching. What's going on? Borbis Kanji Psychiatric Ward, Tech 1. Where's the truck? Go and pull up and dash Jack Deere at the back of the truck. Probably put some shackles in him like they're known for doing persons. I've had my days of foot shackles, handcuffs, all manner of things. Slept in my cell with foot shackles and handcuffs for 1 week, 2 weeks. So I know the pain. I know the suffering. I know what these goons do when they're in office. I know firsthand. I know. So we see them shackling people. We saw a woman who was accused of treason. She was shackled. Where was the outrage? She was shackled. She was placed in solitary confinement for over 1 year. Went to court with shackles. Where was the outrage? The women's organizations and all manner of things. People were afraid to go close to these people, or even me. When I got out from Camp Street, people were afraid to even say hi. One day I'll tell you guys a little more about it. They were afraid to say hi. When that woman was charged, wrongfully charged, she and her husband. Yeah, Carol Ann Monroe and her husband, Major Bruce Monroe, GDF Army officer, and another Army officer, Leonard Wharton. All of them were charged. They were rounded up. But the one who got the worst end of the stick was Carol Ann Monroe. A woman was shackled. Shackled. How many of you guys know that apart from my treason charge, that these three persons were charged with treason. No evidence, nothing against them. Absolutely nothing. Because someone in the army wanted to suck up to their boss back then, Bharat Jack Deo, and say, look, there are two army officers who are attempting to overthrow the government, the racist PPP government. And so some sort of tape recording they got with nothing on it. Absolutely nothing. And these people were taken away from their families. In the case of Bruce Monroe and Carol Ann Monroe, they had little kids, little children that had to be sent off to relatives. And this woman, Carol Ann Monroe, was shackled and placed in solitary confinement. To this day, she hasn't recovered. And that's why I say, who feels it knows it. When people are placed into those sort of conditions, they don't recover overnight. And for 1+ years, she was placed in solitary confinement and shackled when going to court and shackled at times in her cell. A woman. There wasn't any outrage. But you know what? This woman is a hero. She is a hero and should be a hero to all of us. A version of a Winnie Mandela. Albeit, she played her role. She's a teacher, an educator, stood up for what is right. We never knew of these individuals to be anti-government, publicly or otherwise. No, good citizens that were caught up in some he said, she said story. He said, she said story. And some corrupt members of the Guyana Defense Force decided to record some he said, she said conversation. There he said, she said. So much that the magistrate had to dismiss the case. I know. I was there. Every day when they attended court, I was there with them. I interviewed them. Many folks were afraid to go next to them. Many folks were afraid to go next to them. Some of them who are parading now as politicians and leaders or whatever, they were afraid to stand up and defend or speak out against the atrocities back then. Some of them are even afraid now. Good evening to all of you again. Welcome to Straight Up. These are the type of so-called leaders the PPP has right now. Look at them. This one, let me see if you guys know this lunatic that's on the screen, went to vote. And this is how he is voted. Any other part of the world, yeah, this is the guy who used to hustle at Metropole. He used to hustle at Metropole. Stole a bike, allegedly stole a bike. I think he got locked up for stealing a bike. And these are the people. If there was an allegation, and I want to make this point very clear, right? Allegation that he stole a bike. Allegation that he stole a bike. Now this, I noticed somebody said Aubrey Norton, he's scared of jail cell. Well, at least he never said that publicly. Kemraj Ramjatan, the leader of there is still an AFC. The leader of the AFC said that, and I asked him the question, and it was aired, that he's afraid of lockup, and he ain't getting locked up for nobody. He said it. Kemraj Ramjatan said it. So these are the leaders that are out there today representing or purporting to be representing people that don't want to get locked up. no one to protest, no one to go to jail. And we must go out there and vote for them because they love us. They love us so much, right? Not back in the days when you have leaders like Bornham and Chetty Jagan. They were willing to die and willing to go to jail. In fact, both of them got locked up. I think Chetty spent about 3 or 4 months in prison. Bornham didn't jail him, not Bornham. Bornham never jailed Chetty. Bornham never harmed Chetty or anyone. And some may say that Bornham harmed Walter Rodney and all these different things, but there's no evidence of that sort. None. I don't know what happened, but there's no evidence of that sort. But those were men who were willing to go to jail. Not these guys today. These guys want to play nice politics, olive oil politics, smooth and shine, and everything must be dandy for them. Most of them. Look at your MPs. Them. Look at all of them. You think they want to get a handcuff on them? You think they want to get shackled? They're too shine for that. Put a handcuff, you mess up their makeup, you mess up their hair, you mess up their suit, you mess up their tie. When you go and protest with some of these MPs in the opposition, you got to be quiet. You can't be brawling up. PPP must go. And they tell you, you can't behave like that. You just stand up and be straight and just, you can't. These are the crop of so-called leaders. No. Something has got to happen. Look at Region 10. People are punishing. People are dying for leadership and all manner of things. I noticed the other day they had Sunday. Yeah. They had a town hall meeting. They got big space in Linden that they could have a real town hall, a physical on the ground. You got shine leaders. They want to sit down in their offices or at home and talk to people through, Zoom. A Zoom meeting. That's not a town hall meeting. We could understand and accept that during the pandemic. But what is stopping those leaders, quote unquote, leaders out there in Linden to have a proper town hall meeting instead of a Zoom chat? People don't want Zoom chat and all of the promises. Oh, we can do this, and this is what I'm... People don't want that nonsense. Politics have changed. Oh, Father. What is it? 23 minutes after 9 o'clock. My name is Mark Benchap. As you guys know, welcome. Welcome. Let me see. Yep, sorry about that. Somebody's saying that, hi, Sharon Belgrave Forrester, is saying that you're in the mental jail. I don't know. What do you mean? What do you mean, Sharon? Mental jail. Raul is saying that was a dumb idea to have a Zoom chat purported to be town hall meeting. That wasn't no town hall meeting. And people too shine. They don't want to go down on the ground. They don't want to meet the people. They're too shine for that. They're too shine for that. And now we are hearing of some, as the PNC is now claiming, they've issued a statement that it's just what is concerning, and I'll read the statement. Some of you may have already gotten the information that the General Secretary of the People's National Congress was locked out, and of her office. The release from the PNCR says, and the PNCR has taken note of 2 short video clips being circulated on social media, and the inference is that is purported to be drawn is that the General Secretary of the PNCR, Mistress Dawn Hastings Williams, was prevented from entering Congress Place. The PNCR wishes to assure that at no time was Mistress Hastings Williams prevented from entering Congress Place, and we condemn these efforts by detractors who wish to sow seeds of discord and strife. I saw the video. And I didn't go to IFLOT University. I saw the video. But whatever is happening inside of the PNCR, I hope they take care of that swiftly. There's a bigger picture. There's a bigger enemy, and that is outside of the PNCR. The enemies are not within the PNCR. The enemies are not those who are standing up and fighting against the installed, the corrupt, the racist PPP regime. We know who the real enemies are. And I saw those two video clips. Right, Conrad? We all saw those two video clips where the General Secretary, Dawn Hastings Williams, Member of Parliament, what we saw on that video and what we heard in the videos, hurling all sort of derogatory remarks. Where they come from, what them this and what them, that has no place. And whatever is happening at Congress Place, those within the leadership bracket of the PNCR need to pull their heads out of the sand and face reality and confront whatever the problems are, confront it before it gets out of hand. The PPP is vulnerable right now. They are the lowest. They know that they can and will be defeated. If we have such an opposition that keeps fighting and fighting and fighting, and the evidence is showing more and more each day bad leadership, then this good opportunity to rid Guyana of the PPP once again, the next general elections, will slip away. It will slip away. That's all I wish to say. But when I saw the statement coming out of the PPP's headquarters about the tape that I saw it. I'm not going to play it, or maybe I should if I play it. You guys are going to see. You guys are going to hear. I hate when people attempt to insult my intelligence. I just hate that. I agree with you, Naomi. Too much infighting. A lot of wrong people are placed in positions that they should not be placed in. Somebody wants me to play it. You guys, if I were to play the tape, it was just basic. What good would that do? We have a bigger shark to bust up and make choker with than waste our energy every time there's something that we got to respond to, some sort of infighting. Who said this and who said that? Who said this and who said that? I don't know. I'm getting tired of it. And whoever attempted to lock the General Secretary out of Congress Place needs to be put out of Congress Place themselves, because they're causing tremendous amount of problems. Lots of division. Got to get real strong leadership. Somebody's making a good point here. I don't know, Aliyah, we need more women like Aliyah. I think Aliyah is a woman, People have different Facebook page, but um, Mark, we can't bust up the bigger shark if we have another big one in the middle to bust up. Lots of sharks, lazy sharks, visionless sharks. I don't know. I don't know. Leadership comes to mind. Leadership comes to mind. Lack thereof. Victor Ben is saying a house divided will never stand. Then there's another comment. Now, Leonard Nelson said, I thought Mr. Granger was the problem at PNCR. Mr. Norton is a problem also. Every leader will be a problem. You know why? Because people vote and select leaders out of emotions instead of real track record, out of emotions. And every time you put a leader because of emotions and those sort of sentiments, you run into this sort of problem. The next time you guys choose a leader of the People's National Congress reform, don't do it out of emotions. Do it because of track record. Don't do it because of gender. Do it because of track record. Don't do it because who put on little suit and tie or little makeup. Do it because of track record. And once you look at someone's track record and to know that they will do good, once you put them, they're not going to be perfect, but they will do good. But when you continue to choose leaders because of emotional sentiments, you end up in problems. Serious, serious problems. Melissa Sue, hi Sue, how are you? Melissa Sue is saying, Mark, that tape is a distraction. I don't buy that. I don't buy that the tape is a distraction. If you have a party headquarters and you see the general secretary or officials of the party coming in, you will show that respect, you will open the gate, and you will allow that general secretary to go in. You don't want a situation where the general secretary has to exit her vehicle from the evidence shown being blocked from entering the headquarters and had to inquire what is going on. And then there are people who are abusing. It's just not fair at all for that. It is not fair at all. I think another good point that is being brought to our attention by Miss Miss Simon here is too many Lone Rangers. Yep. No, the leader, not that the leader needs to rein anybody in. I don't want to be part of any system where a leader got to rein me in or rein anybody in. The leader's got to lead too. And sometimes when the leader can't lead or doesn't have much of a vision to lead, what do you think happens? That is when you get Lone Rangers. And all of them, the Lone Rangers and all of them because they got Lone Rangers. Some of the Lone Rangers are being stifled. Some of the Lone Rangers are being stifled. Everybody doing helter-skelter. Anyways, look, we have other stuff too. But if I were to show you guys that tape, you will see that. And you see, we oftentimes have some of our own people love to claim that it's a distraction. It's all manner of things. But I was upset when I saw that. Dawn Hastings Williams. She was appointed there as general secretary. And she is a dedicated person to her party. Dedicated to her party. Now let's see here Marvin Williams. Marvin Williams is saying, if video clip does not tell an entire story, Mark, you know this to be a fact. I don't know that to be a fact, Marvin. I don't. Video clips, authentic video clip. And now, unless you guys are going to say it was splice, it was this, it was that, the video clip showed that there was a blockage there, came out. The general secretary came out, not her driver, not the security, came out. And then all you heard in the background was derogatory remarks. I guess the video clip was spliced, right, Marvin? I guess that's what it is. But I wasn't born on April 1st, mind you, sir. I wasn't born on April 1st. I wasn't born on April 1st. But let's move on. We have our guest this evening, Miss Shellon Washington. We should have been joined by one other person. And, I don't want people to insult my intelligence at all. I know what I saw. I know what I saw. And whatever the situation is with the PNC, I hope they get their act together. Because I support the opposition. I voted, I campaigned, and since they have been kicked out of office, I've been very supportive. Very supportive. So nobody could tell me otherwise. But I want to see proper leadership at Congress Place, coming out of Congress Place. I want to see proper representation coming out of Parliament by our opposition members of Parliament. We want to see that. Jack Dave, they know that, the goose get cooked. They're caught with so many lies and corruption and acts of racial discrimination in the country that they know that they will lose the next elections. That is why those folks at Congress Place and those folks in the AFC need to get their act together. I don't know, Miss. See, sometimes you get them guys like Sean Anthony, Ben, and them. They can't see farther than the nose, you know. They can't see farther than the nose. They always know who's the bigger fish, who's the bigger shark to fry, and they sit down and wait. And every night you knock the bigger sharks, And then the other ones, them now, stymieing the process. And we must ignore that. A marabunta to come and bite you, you must ignore it. You mustn't do anything to heal the wound, you must ignore it. Because there's a bigger bee out there that could sting you, or that a bigger bee is stinging you. Sean. Y'all are always with this bigger issue, and y'all are you're PNC, you know, you diehard PNC. I'm a patriotic Guyanese. All right? So go into Congress Place and talk to your friend Aubrey. Talk to all of them and tell them that we have a bigger fish out there to fry. Don't depend on me to fry that fish in a frying pan. Because when the frying pan was hot, with a big shark sitting as the U.S. Secretary of State, none of y'all wanted to fry any bigger shark or everybody run into hiding. Everybody, and I do mean it, everybody ran into hiding. Oops, sorry, Miss Washington. You think they say women could abuse? You think women could abuse? Nah, I think men could do more abusing. You saw the abusing I put out on Sean, Ben? And Sean happens to be a relative of mine, you know. Good evening, Sean. He knows he and I, but he is correct. There's a bigger shark, there's a bigger fish to fry. But them guys in Congress Place and them guys in the AFC, they gotta do better, man. Good night, ma'am. How are you?
Right. Good night, Mark, and good night to all of your viewers, listeners tonight. Good night there to Candy. I see she's saying good night. Yes, Mark. So I think this whole issue with the PNC, it's not a very good look, and I think the PNC need to get it together, show the country, show the world that you can, operate in unity, some amount of unity. If you're showing that type of discord already in public display, I'm not sure. What are you telling people there about your ability to possibly run a country and unify people? I don't know.
I don't know, and we know there's a bigger fish, there's a bigger shark, but god damn it, gosh, oh,
Public display. Whatever the issue is, it could have been settled in private so that, the world didn't have to see this sort of thing.
absolutely. I wanna, and I didn't in the beginning, as we did earlier in the morning. Um, we carried the court appearance by Mr. Tukuma Gunsi, who was charged with incite, what is it, racial hostility or something like that, and he was placed on 500 US dollars bail. That's 100,000 Guyana dollars. He's back out. He's home, and it shows the vindictiveness, the wickedness of the PPP regime. They have been persecuting people since they got back into office under questionable circumstances, persecuting people, Roxanne Myers, Keith Lowenfield, Trevor Ben, Mingo, all these people are being persecuted under the PPP regime. And Mr. Tukuma Ogunsi has joined that list.
You see, Mark, I've been saying this from the beginning of the time I've been on your show. Uh, we don't have democracy in Guyana. And I've always said one of the things that makes the United States such a good country is the ability of the citizens to freely express their opinions, their views, and not be persecuted for doing such. And I think one of the bad things about Guyana, which makes it such a repressive country, it's a beautiful country. Don't get me wrong. I love my town that I'm from. I love Linden. I love the scenery. I love the fresh air in Guyana, but I hate the politics and I hate the oppression. And I think that's one of the main reasons why I couldn't stand that country. The oppression that the citizens are forced to live under. The minute you speak out against the PPP, you speak out about what they're doing, about the wrongdoing, they try to oppress you. I listened to that clip from Takuma Ogunzi. I played it several times and I listened to it to see which part of the speech was he racially inciting people to turn against each other. And I mean, the words, all I heard is him saying that he asked a question. What would happen if it was turned the other way? And I wouldn't repeat it because, but I didn't hear anything that would have racially incite anyone. I just heard him asking a question. What would happen? Because he was clearly stating that it's the police, the black people are being oppressed, and we have more people in the police force, more people in the military. We're the majority, and yet the majority is being oppressed. And it's a fair question that every single Guyanese should ask themselves. Like, why are they the majority and they're being oppressed? But I didn't hear Mr. Ogunzi said anything to tell people to turn against each other or to kill people. I think, if anything, that video you played here is sufficient evidence that the police should investigate that young man who made those statements, because he's essentially inciting people to poison black people, and no one took any offense about that. But the minute somebody says something that is pointed to the government or is offensive to the government, then they turn against that person and they try to make an arrest. And I've said it before and I will continuously say it. They use the police force as a weapon against the citizen. The police force should stand there to protect, not to oppress. And Guyana is filled with oppression.
Lots and lots of oppression indeed. It's 45 minutes after 9. Shalon Washington is with us, attorney at law, and she is correct. Lots and lots of oppression in Guyana. What do you think of this whole my take on discrimination? That we know that almost every Guyanese is being discriminated against, but when a government or so-called government, whether they're in there legally or illegally, when they specifically discriminate against someone as a result of their ethnicity. How dangerous is that, Miss Washington?
That's very dangerous because it's creating a precedent, and it's a precedent that we've seen all over the world. So I do not care what and how the PPP tried to cover up their oppression against Afro-Guyanese. We've seen this too many times, and I'm yet to see on the news an Indian person get on the television and say that the government is oppressing them, denying them certain rights, especially on inheritance as it relates to land that we see is happening to Mr. Lewis. We see it happen to so many Guyanese people. I'm waiting to see on the news that Indo-Guyanese are being forced off of their land or they're being deprived of their farmland. I'm waiting to see that. So if I see that, then I'm going to say, okay, maybe it's just them. They just oppress people generally. But I'm seeing pictures like this, Mark, oppression against Black folks being forcibly removed. I've seen, Linden. I was surprised about Linden because Linden has so much wasteland. And I was extremely surprised to see that the PPP will go into my hometown and remove people and, demolish their properties and tell them they're illegal on the property. And I'm like, what is this? This would never happen on the First Samson burnout. I have never heard of this. People being forcibly removed from lands in Linden. Linden is sparsely populated. There's so much wasteland. So there's absolutely no reason to go and remove people by force from those lands. And I think this is a picture that we've been seeing. She's like the poster girl for oppression against Afro-Guyanese who own land and they're being forced to get out. This is the poster girl right here. And I think the PPP needs to recognize that their policies against Black people, it needs to change because we don't see this. We don't see this type of narrative. We don't see this type of videos as it relates to our Indo-Guyanese. And it's not fair when you're enforcing the rules against one particular group more specifically than you go against any other group, regardless of their political affiliation. It's not right. I think more so if you don't support the PPP, they do not care of your existence. You need to be eliminated because you do not support their politics. You do not support their policies. And better yet, if you speak out against them, they will rage all war against you. And that's not right. We are supposed to be a democratic country. We're supposed to be a democracy. And I don't see that in anything that the PPP do, especially in the elections. The elections is specifically controlled. The elections are not free. They're not fair. And there's a lot of corruption in the election. So we can't expect if somebody is doing all that they can do to control sitting in office, maybe trying to hold that office for the rest of their lives. I don't see how Guyana would in anytime soon, unless we, the people of Guyana, take steps to make it happen, to enforce or force the government to do what is right, to treat everyone fairly, to allow the country to operate as a democracy. What I would like to see is the elections go the right way and allow people to vote and allow the leader that actually won to sit in office and not to try to control who should sit there. We have our neighboring country, Trinidad. Look at Trinidad. Trinidad, we don't see this. When you lose, you step down and the new leader steps into office and there's nobody who's been there for 23 years and trying to manipulate the public to believing that they've won the election so many times. Let the country vote freely. Let's see what happens. Allow free and fair elections and let's see if you'll still be there.
Exactly. And you've said that in this particular case, we do not, and I'm not saying that any other ethnic group should be treated in this manner, women. If this woman was of East Indian descent, the police would dare not have done that. And that is the truth. We don't see them. And again, if they were to do that, I will be as vocal as I am tonight. But we do not see any evidence that they barge into predominantly Indian communities and treat citizens in this manner. We saw what they did to the woman in Linden because of her ethnicity. We saw what they did to this woman, roll her up in the mud. I believe she has a handcuff on there. All manner of, she probably has shackles, I don't know. But look at the treatment of this woman. I don't know. But yet, some people, when you say that the PPP, apartheid PPP regime is targeting persons of African descent only because of their ethnicity, some people jump up and, oh, all Guyanese are being discriminated against. All, not just African Guyanese. They miss the point. They miss that point. Do you see any future under this PPP regime? Obviously, it's a dotish question, but I'll still ask it. Go ahead.
I do not. The reason is I've seen the type of government, because I've lived in Guyana before. I live in America. Obviously, I wanted to be in Guyana. That's my country of choice, my country of birth. I love Guyana. But one of the things that turned me off completely is, practicing in Guyana, and I saw it's so corrupt. Like, if you had friends in certain places, you could go get things done. If you support the political party at that time, it was obviously the PPP was in power when I was in Guyana. And if you supported them and you had friends in office, you could accomplish anything you wanted to once you believed in them and once you supported them. But if you were on the other side of the fence openly, you can't get anything done. And for those Afro Guyanese who are, they're strong headed in terms of supporting whichever side of the political fence. And the thing is, what they need to know is people could be swayed. Like in America, voters are swayed all the time. 1 year, 4 years ago, you would see a voter voting for Democrat. Another 4 years, you'll see them sway towards Republican. And this is the kind of stuff that happens in a democratic society. And I think if we did what was right, and if the PPP would do the right thing, we would quickly see the situation would switch around. We would see how fast it would switch around. People would be swayed based on what the government is doing for the country at the particular time. Their votes would be swayed, but they don't want that. They don't want voters to be swayed based on, how they feel a particular political group might lead the country. They want to be in control at all costs. They want to control the country for the rest of whichever person's natural life that is behind this whole scheme of things. And we know who's behind it. It's really not the person that you see in the front. The man in the front of the line is really not the man who's leading. We know who's leading. And we know that some of the people that are following the PPP are just really puppets on a string, and they're being controlled by somebody else. So I don't see much of a hope for Guyana as long as we continue under the type of leadership, and as long as the new breed of leader come and they're contaminated by whoever is there and they're influenced by whoever is there. We will not see any hope or change at this time. I think the only thing left for Guyanese to continue to do is continue to protest, continue to preach for changes, advocate for changes, and hopefully someday the right political leader will come into office and say, well, enough is enough. Let's do what is right. Hopefully somebody who's righteous will take office someday soon.
How do you feel? Well said. How do you feel about this here? The person who sits there as the chairman or chairwoman of the Guyana Elections Commission on the controversial circumstances, of course. She has made a lot of remarks, and in fact, it is surprising to many people that she went the direction that she did in accepting an election's results riddled with questionable votes, thousands of questionable votes. This is what she said about someone who is now parading as an honest businessman and whatever they want to describe themselves as, is saying here, and this is what she said: there's a rumor that a name from so-and-so is influencing Kaichur News to print all the filth and bringing the attack. He invested, she's saying about this so-called businessman, who now happens to be running for some political office. And the businessman she was referring to is Mohammed. He invested in Mercury and wants his money. He might be the person who financed the death threat. She said that he wanted her dead. In a country like Guyana, these things are not being investigated. But before I allow you to respond, his daughter now, his name is Nazar Mohammed. His daughter now is saying, quote, my father has and always will be transparent. All manner of things. And the more they're right, the more they're exposing themselves. But this woman, Claudette Singh, actually admitted that this guy Mohammed, who is now running for some low level, he joined the PPP officially. She's saying that he might be the person who financed the death threat and wanted her dead. Your take, ma'am.
I mean, Mark, I do not believe she would have any reason to misinform the public. But if she's saying there's reasons or she might believe this person might be responsible, then it needs to be investigated. It should be taken seriously, whatever she's saying there. And the police ought to investigate that. And if somebody went to those lengths to finance a death threat or threaten anybody's life, and and it's known, I mean, she said, she was cautious with the way she wrote that, or said it. But if it's true, Mark, it needs to be investigated. We need to get to the bottom of this. We need to find out whether or not, there was a death threat against Claudette Singh. And if there was a death threat against her, the police need to take action. They need to go out there and do their job, do their investigation to determine whether or not those allegations has any merits to it.
And then we heard of and you also, I think, spoke about this. This is Detective Sergeant Bascom, Dion Bascom, that made all the allegations. He was part of a murder probe investigating the murder of this guy, Fagundes, that linked this guy, the name Mohammed again. Well, there are two Mohammeds there. There's this guy, whatever his name is, Mohammed, that run around playing that he's a philanthropist, and then there's Mohammed Irfan Ali. But that guy there, Mohammed, Azruddin, Mohammed, is standing there with Mohammed Irfan Ali. Azruddin Mohammed is standing there with the acting top cop, Clifton Hicken. And Azruddin Mohammed is said to be one of the suspects in the murder of this guy. How does that make you feel that a day like today, as we would say, no arrest or no effort, as far as I'm aware or the public is aware, no effort in arresting or questioning this guy? No wanted bulletin, but they're going to put wanted bulletin for others who speak out against the atrocities and injustices of the PPP regime. But because this guy is supposedly a lover of the PPP, nothing is being done to him. How does that make you feel, or the small man, woman in Guyana feel about this situation?
I mean, Mark, I think it would make anyone become angry and upset. And I told you that's one of the main reasons that forced me out of Guyana, because of the corruption. I couldn't deal with it. It was too much corruption and too much of prejudice and too much of, if you support us, we'll give you everything you need. Even the police in Guyana, you can control with money. You can buy anybody in Guyana with politics and money. And because of that, I think the system is so corrupt. It's hard for anybody to sit by idly and not be upset about the things that they're seeing. To see this guy associating himself with the police, and they're taking pictures together, and he's with the president, and then there's allegations against him in that he was involved in murder, and nothing is being done because he knows the president. Obviously, he has his connection, and like I said, this is one of the situations that is extremely upsetting to me. And I couldn't live in a country that has so much corruption. I mean, there's corruption everywhere. We know this, but it's just that some countries are much more equipped to control it because they have a really vibrant court system. The Constitution is very strong, and there's a good separation of powers. But, in Guyana, we really do not have separation of powers. And the rule of law does not always prevail. It gets confused that the law is enforceable against some people and against some it's not. Like, for instance, we know about the fraud charges against the sitting president of Guyana. I haven't seen any country yet where they have a sitting president with multiple fraud charges, and he's still sitting there. And the Guyanese people are just quiet, sitting there, allowing somebody like that to rule their country. So I gotta say, it's pretty upsetting and disturbing, the things that we have going on in Guyana. But yet, everyone seems to be contented. The PPP is getting on TV or the news or the radio, and they're speaking, and they're speaking against things which are right, which people are taking the right action against things, but people are not saying. And people, I find a lot of times the PPP supporters are very blind. They're blinded to discrimination. They're blinded to wrongdoing. They're blinded to fraud. You know why? Because a lot of these people are just biased based on race, versus somebody being impartial and be biased based on whether or not somebody is competent to provide good leadership to the country. And I think that's where people need to draw the line. You have to look at folks who are actually competent to provide good leadership to your country, and not focus that somebody just based on their race. I mean, what type of politics is that? Just electing somebody based on race. Look at Trinidad. Trinidad has the same type of diversity as Guyana, yet people don't just base their vote on race. It goes one way. One time it would go for a party that's predominantly Afro Trinidadians, and
Sometimes we see that racism raises its head. It did
yeah,
when
but not
Basdir
as bad.
Pandey, and then when the female prime minister was there as well. We are hearing the same thing in terms of racism has never been the way it is in Suriname under President Santoki. Never been the same in Suriname. So we see these things, they raise their heads whenever it all depends on who is in power, and they oftentimes foster that sort of racist agenda.
Right. But the thing is, Mark, it's not there consistently or continuously. Because even here, you see, in the United States, we had sparks of, white supremacies uprising, and a lot of things took place during a specific time in this country. But it's not consistently there. The person who's in leadership controls that by speaking unity and helping to bring the people together. But I think a lot of times in Guyana, it's one thing consistently.
Absolutely.
Treat one race bad and give to one race everything.
Going back to this guy who is set to be a suspect, mind you, in the murder of Fagundes, who was murdered just a couple of houses away from State House, where Irfan Ali, his friend, standing there with his friend Irfan Ali, lives. And everyone seemed to be stymieing this investigation, every single one. But this is what this guy said, Azruddin Mohammed. And it wouldn't surprise a lot of you guys, but according to the Stabrook News, it says here, they addressed him as a businessman. It is what it is. But they're saying that the businessman said that his vehicle was inexplicably detained on the grounds of allegations made to foreign law enforcement about himself, family, and company. And these are the allegations, according to him, mind you. According to him, he is the one who has revealed this now to the public. He is saying that he also said allegations ranging from drug trafficking, assassinations, and illegal gun trade to money laundering, financing of terrorism, and purchasing gold from Venezuela, a blacklisted country, were leveled against him. He is saying that. He is saying that these are the allegations in U.S. law enforcement agencies that are leveled against him. Again, let me repeat, drug trafficking, assassinations, and illegal gun trade to money laundering, financing of terrorism, and purchasing gold from Venezuela, a blacklisted country. All these things. Well, you're smiling. He is saying it. I'm not saying it. He has admitted that law enforcement agencies in the U.S. are making these allegations against him and maybe other family members. Your take, ma'am, from a
Mark, I
legal
think the
standpoint.
police force in Ghana knows very well. The government of Ghana knows all this. They have this type of information. They understand it very well. But as you can see, politics over anything, politics over morals, politics over honesty, politics over your integrity. And that's the way it is in Ghana. Politics over everything. It's two things, politics and money over everything else. So everything else is out the window once those two things are involved. Because if you could associate yourself as the president of Ghana, as the installed president of Ghana, you can associate yourself with somebody who is a known, well, there's allegations that the person is
Allegations, mind you.
there are
Allegations.
allegations
Thank you.
that somebody is a criminal and you're associating yourself with that person. Mark, I do not know how best we can deal with something like this, because we're looking here at somebody who's supposed to be the president, who's supposed to be the leader, somebody who's supposed to have integrity, you're supposed to be upright, your hands are supposed to be clean. And this is what Guyana has as its president, somebody who's associating themselves with somebody whose name is being called in corrupt practices, illegal activities, and the likes. So I don't know. It doesn't look good for us, but I think Guyanese has become comfortable sitting in a situation where we see so much corruption, so much killing, so much wrongdoing, that it's become the norm to them. And for us sitting in the diaspora, looking at them, to us, it's like we can't do that because we can't live under a system that we know is so vile. It violates people's rights without any sort of there's no repercussions for their actions. So they violate people's right, knowing that they wouldn't have anything to pay for. They wouldn't be reprimanded by the courts in some instances, and it will go unpunished, in some instances unnoticed, because there's a lot of Guyanese who we're not seeing them in the media because they wouldn't come out and tell their story like some of them do. Like Lincoln is doing. He's telling his story. He wants the world to know his story about what the government of Guyana is doing, all the way in Berbice to touch lands, all the way in Berbice. Guyana is so much wasteland we have in Guyana. Yet still, the government will go all the way to Berbice to take lands away from somebody who inherited from their ancestors. So, it's just the way we go about things in Guyana, and the people don't litigate enough. I think when people realize that that's what the court is for, the judges has to do their job. They took an oath, and if they consistently are going against what the law says, people need to bring it up on Facebook, bring it up on social media, show the world what type of judges we have. If the judge is not doing his or her job correctly, put it up, let people know, expose things. We live in an era where it's so easy to expose things. It's easy to expose corruption because we have the internet, we have smartphones. So we just basically record things and put it in real time online. So Guyanese need to start exposing things, bring it out in the open. You go into the land registry and you inquiring about your land and they're trying to push you around, record them, secretly record people, expose things. There's no laws in Guyana, as far as I'm aware, unless it was changed, that says you can't record corrupt practices. You record it and you expose, continue to
Absolutely.
expose.
Record and expose. I notice someone is saying here Exxon is doing business with the suspect. I don't know, but I don't know if Exxon Mobil, what they're doing, or other companies doing business with certain businesses back in Guyana. That's a crime in the U.S. If it is true that Exxon is aware of certain things and just wish to bypass that, that actually is a crime in the U.S. Are you aware of that before we move on?
I'm not sure, Mark, because when it comes to criminal law, I do not like to delve into that much because my strong area is civil. I'm specialized in civil, anything to do with civil side of the law. I don't like dealing with criminals, and I think that's
Absolutely. You don't do criminal law. That's all right. That's okay.
that's one of the reasons why I don't want to live in Guyana.
I got you. Don't do criminal law, but it doesn't look good that American companies and if the taxpayers and their lawmakers who might very well have to know of some of these American companies that are doing business back in Guyana with some companies that are questionable companies, then that's a different story. You spoke earlier about people videotaping stuff and these sort of things. I encourage and I ask people to videotape things. Once you see something that is illegal that's happening, videotape it. If the police come to arrest you and whatever, don't call and say, oh, the police come by the house. Videotape. Let us see the evidence. I want to touch on another story. I want to touch on this particular story before we go. We are hearing that Irfan Ali has appointed his mother to sit on a committee at Cyril Potter College of Education. Now, if this is accurate, that Irfan Ali has appointed his mother, I don't know if she would be paid or not, but the optics doesn't look good. I don't know if I'm accurate in saying what I'm saying, that the optics doesn't look good at all. That he is, based on what we're hearing, he is allegedly, he has appointed his mother to some new position at the Cyril Potter College.
But that would beg me to ask a question, though, Mark. If he's
Sure.
appointing his mother, we don't know what university he had graduated from. He graduated from IFLOT. So where exactly did the mother graduate, and what type of qualification does she have to sit on the Cyril Potter College?
To his mother's credit, I
Yes.
think she was a teacher. She has the qualification as a teacher, as an educator, from my understanding. But to place her in a position, whether paid or not, that's my take. In such a small country, that depriving another person an opportunity to earn a dollar. But go ahead.
Mark, I'm still puzzled because being a teacher doesn't necessarily qualify you to sit on the Cyril Potter College. Being a teacher doesn't also necessarily mean that you have a degree, like a degree in education or something higher than just
Fair enough.
just the training, the certificate. And I mean, we already know because it looks like his mother should be in retirement, but
She has retired. She has retired.
so that's why I'm not sure. Is he trying to put money in his mother's pocket? Like, why is he pushing his mother to a position that somebody more qualified and more able-bodied could be in? I'm not sure why he's doing this. But as to the moral side of it, the laws in Guyana doesn't really deal too much with moral aspects and conflict of interest and this sort of things. So basically, it allows you to do anything.
Someone might argue that the mayor of New York City appointed his brother to sit in some big position there in the police department. That has since been rectified. The brother wasn't getting a cent, I think maybe $1, and the mayor had to be corrected for that. And so nothing is wrong with asking this question to Irfan Ali, whether this is true that he has appointed his mother to some board at the Cyril Potter College of Education.
And but for what purpose?
To oversee some students' evaluation or something of that sort. And then on top of that, there's a full-time lecturer of the University of Guyana who has also been appointed to that position.
Well, you see, the lecturer, I have no objection about.
Which is a conflict of interest also, because as a full-time lecturer, that person should not be, that person is working at the Ministry of Education and plus this new position as well. It's something that I'll definitely tell you guys more about tomorrow.
But I do have an issue with the mother. Like, what value is she bringing to the Cyril Potter College of Education, having served as a teacher? A teacher doesn't necessarily qualify you for that type of position.
Fair enough. And has retired since then too, but no one else.
But that's one of the having raised this issue about appointing somebody. Guyana is the most misguided country I've ever known when it comes to putting the most qualified people in the right positions. Because if we want to talk about that, right now we have a president who probably isn't qualified to be there.
That's not correct. Please, Miss Washington, we've got to be careful. He has 19 fraud charges. How many persons you know? Just imagine in his office: fraud 1, fraud 2, fraud 3, fraud. Probably could get what is it? An honorary degree on the subject of fraud. It hasn't been proven in court. That's because they never wanted it to go to court. Because if you're innocent of something, let it go to court. Why rush to the court to block it? Hence, if you're innocent of something, why make such an effort to, oh no, I don't want a court to hear it? This is a guy who was blocked from entering Canada as well. Blocked.
That's what I'm saying. We're probably one of the most misguided countries as to appointments. So
speaking of a
leave that
misguided
right
country,
there. Huh?
Speaking of a misguided country, here is how citizens are expressing themselves. They're feeling the squeeze under this corrupt apartheid PVP regime, installed PVP regime. You get one and two little colorful language, colorful words, sorry. Just cork your ears, as we were saying, Guyana, if you don't. Let's go to the Georgetown Public Hospital earlier today, and this is what happened. Listen to this gentleman carefully, please.
Tell them. Yeah, tell them what you have. You're robbing Guyana.
Irfan Ali, Nandalal.
I'm going to put it
And
under.
this next one, Ashley Singh.
Uh-huh.
A 4-man around this country. And they
Stop.
plan them.
Yeah, the wicked.
One black man, I kill black man here.
My God.
I
Yeah.
see that I want to fight the people them black man. I come together and bring them out.
Yes. Take them out in Jesus' name.
Jack the one black in America, whole black. In America, you never wife, you never pick you any money.
Never get part the cake, yeah. Tell them. Rabako to the end of the year. Preach. Tell them. Thief. Go ahead. Don't stop.
You're not afraid of them.
Don't frighten. Expose them. Don't frighten. God on your side. He sent me.
All cooling people and all black man, what you got? I vote to PNC and vote to people. This country will never get good. Me don't understand the already. Me don't understand. Check for your grandparents, your great grandparents.
Jesus.
Yo, from West Africa.
Mama, put it in there.
But you can't see that.
Thank you,
You
Jesus.
can't see that.
Thank you, Jesus. God gonna change it. My
My
God.
Your black man.
My God.
Come together, forget about race.
My God. Yes.
Only unity can bring that
Yes. Strength, unity, strength. To God be the glory.
But Jack, they will do something. What Jack they will do? Jack they will do nothing.
Yep.
He was the
Nothing.
president. Come back now as head of the party, then come back as vice president. And I kick Kuli in the ass and they can't see.
My God. They got a
You know the
blind.
people in the Moko. They get new house, they get land, they get paper for the land one time. That was people start coming in Ghana. Check the history of Moko people. But I just want to Ghana come good. But it's still going to holler black man and Kuli and black man and Kuli.
Thank you,
Tell them
Jesus.
for your rights.
Yep. Stand up. Get up. Stand up.
The words here, friend Ali.
God in charge. Jesus is Lord over Guyana.
When if you're
Rabako.
walking the black man here, yes, sir, I believe that you come.
My God.
I know them.
My God.
And they beat Kuli road. I see Kuli black man beat them. I see Kuli black man, you black man.
My God.
Tell them they live for.
Blood of Jesus.
Blaspheme one another.
Jesus.
And that is jackass them sit down.
Jesus.
And you only pick them grass and rice.
Jesus.
Kuntra la maluntra, a kuntra. We heard that sister who recorded that there was so excited into her speaking and so forth. A kuntra la luntra la 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 la
She's
kuntra.
speaking tongues, Mark.
Yeah.
You got to go to church.
I'm sorry, I thought it was some form of Dutch, PV or something like that. My apologies. She was speaking in tongues there indeed, and that man was speaking in his tongue. What is your take on what he was saying about the politicians, about Jack Dave, about Irfan, about the PPP, and they just don't care? Did that come as a surprise to you, ma'am?
It's not, because like I said earlier, when I commented earlier in this program, that one of the things is if you don't support the PPP, you're not on their side. You wouldn't get what you need. And I said before, in Guyana is who you know and who you support. So politics and money are the two things that controls that country. So if you want to get anything done, that's why you see You know, you can't, if you're getting in politics, it cannot be about the money because you're going to fail. You have to already have money to get into politics. If you take those people running around and joining and becoming politicians and they poor as heck, as soon as they get into power, they're going to fight for money. That's going to be their goal. But if you find a politician who already have money and you elect a person who's already, which is hard to find, it would be very much easier on the country. And you see a lot of the people who are in APNU and a lot of the ones that, you know, from time to time we will hear comments about that all they go and they fold their pockets and they keep it moving. A lot of times that's their goal, to get money, to get rich. So they get into politics because they see it as a means to an end versus an ends to a mean. And I think the man is somewhat correct. When they get into the PPP, kick both sides who don't support them, only to the extent that they don't support them. Because if you're Indian and you supporting the PPP, of course they're going to take care of you. Of course they're going to try their best to give you whatever you ask for. They're going to make sure in hard times they give them that whatever it is, that 25,000 or whatever it is that they were giving out. So I think it's to the extent that you support the PPP, whether you be black or whatever, or Indian, mostly Indian, you get what you want. But if you don't support them, they will not, the most oppression is going to go to the Afro-Guyanese, because if you're not supporting them, you're in a worse situation than if you're Indian and you don't support them. At least if you're Indian and you don't support them, you might get something, but you might not get everything that you might have gotten if you supported them 100%, but they're still not going to kick you the same way they kick the Afro-Guyanese. So to some extent, yes, I agree with him. And the politicians, they're not doing anything. They're there for themselves. The ones in the opposition who are going to parliament every whenever and laying out a case, they're just, most of them just have their own interests at heart. They're not really fighting for the people. The people got to get up and, you know, protest and do whatever they have to do for themselves.
Absolutely. Can't disagree with you at that at all. For those of you who want to get in touch with Miss Washington, she is a lawyer. She practices in New York City. Brooklyn. Her office is in Brooklyn. You can always stop by or give her a call, and she will ensure that she takes care of your legal needs. Some areas where she that she practices is what is it? Medical malpractice, personal injuries, divorce, landlord and tenant, and so forth. Do you get a lot of landlord and tenant cases now that the pandemic is over?
Oh yeah. I did tell you I wanted to talk a little bit about that because a lot of the small landlords in Brooklyn are really, really suffering, and they're taking a very hard hit because obviously the government of New York does not want a mass eviction problem on their hands. And we know that the pandemic did knock a couple of people out financially. They took a serious blow, and some people can't even recover. So a lot of the times with the small landlords, because it's now a pain to get tenants out of your property. Prior to the pandemic, within 6 months or less, you could have gotten a tenant out. Now the process is so lengthy. First of all, starting in 2019, they changed the law. So if you're purchasing, if you're a person who's thinking about buying an investment property, I would discourage you from buying it in New York, period. But if you do own one and you want to rent to tenants, I think one of your best methods might be an Airbnb. But if you choose to go and have long-term tenants, just make sure that you keep money in reserve to cover your rent, cover your mortgage, because at this time it could take you as long as 9 months to a year to get a tenant out. And one of the reasons is because of the law changing in 2019. Prior to that, we could have done a 30 days notice on a tenant to get a tenant out, but they changed the law and they require now landlords, if the tenant is there less than a year, you do a 30 days notice. If the tenant has been there at least 2 years, over a year, but up to 2 years, you got to do a 60 days. If it's over 2 years, going up to 3 years, you got to do a 90 days notice on those tenants. So it kind of makes it difficult because it lengthens the entire process. especially if you have to do a 90 days notice and wait to the end of that. The good thing is the law allows you to collect the rent after you serve the 90 days notice if the tenant is willing to pay. Because there's a culture in New York, people should know about it, that once tenants are served, they're not going to be paying you. They're going to be trying to hold on to that money to move in preparation for moving. So it's causing a big problem for the landlords, particularly. And then even after we file those petitions, they're not giving us dates on time. We're waiting 30 days or more out to get a court date. So these are posing, difficulties for small landlords in particular in Brooklyn and New York generally.
I'm smiling because I even those who are in basements, the landlords have been. We have our little joke about basement because some folks think only certain people, mainly African descent, oh, I live in basement, but that's just a joke because we know who are the bulk of folks who live in basements. Having said that, Miss Washington, over the weekend, there was this Golden Grove meeting, Institute for Action Against Discrimination. It's a group that's going around the country now exposing racial discrimination, comprising of folks like Lincoln Lewis, Roysdale Ford, Senior Counsel, and others, Ricky Ramsaroop, and others were out there, along with the mayor of Georgetown, O'Brien, and so forth. Good idea, right? To go around the country and remind folks.
I mean, I would applaud them actually for creating an institute that is working against discrimination. That will help them to bring some of the discriminatory acts being perpetrated against more Guyanese to the forefront and expose it. Because I think the purpose is to expose and correct, expose and correct. You want this to be corrected. You want this wrong to be right. So I think I would applaud them for doing this, and I hope they reach as many communities as possible to try to stamp out discrimination and racism in Guyana. Which, to be honest, Mark, this has no place in Guyana. If we look at it the correct way, is Guyana is Black people. It's all Black people. The only difference is the Indo-Guyanese are straight here. That's the difference. That's the difference. But they are Black people essentially,
Of course, and that goes without saying. And in any event, Miss Washington, one final question for the night. Someone just messaged about your number, and we just put it up there. Miss Washington's law firm is located in Brooklyn, Utica Avenue. Her telephone number is 718-877-3100, 718-877-3100. You can get in touch with Miss Washington and take it from there. Before we go, though, Roysdale Ford, the senior council member of parliament, did say at the meeting at Golden Grove that the fact that the installed PPP regime is reluctant to confirm the positions of Chief Justice and the other one, which is the Chancellor of the Judiciary, because they have two persons of African descent, two females, of course, history, that they're reluctant to confirm those folks, or either of the two, should be seen as a racial act of racial discrimination. The regime has said that they want to confirm them. This was since last year. The leader of the opposition, Mr. Aubrey Norton, says, hey, whenever you guys are ready to confirm them, he has no objections. Now it has been almost a year now, and the installed PPP regime doesn't want to appoint them at all, or maybe one that is humbugging that appointment. Do you see that as racial discrimination, or what sort of discrimination? Your opinion?
Absolutely, it is discrimination. Because I believe if it were people of a different ethnicity, those people would have been appointed a long time ago. And I think the fear of the PPP is that they, like I said many times before, they want to retain that control. They don't want separation of powers. And anybody who deem a threat to them because they're Afro-Guyanese or whatever race they might be that is not in alignment with what the PPP ideally look like, they don't want to confirm that person. And they know that the people who are most qualified for those positions to be appointed are people who are likely to stand for justice and to stand for righteousness. So it is discrimination based on two factors. The first one is, I would say, the race. And then the second factor, if you only appear as if you're going to do the right thing, because they want to retain that control over the judicial system. They want to control who sits there, does what. They want to make sure that those persons go in there are going to rule in their favor. So it's just another way of control. We don't have a democracy. So they're going to control based on race, because I'm pretty sure if we had Indo Guyanese there, they would have been appointed a long time ago. There would be no hesitation, Mark.
Absolutely. No hesitation at all. Because they did say, Anil Nandilal and even Irfan and them did say that they will conform them. Aubrey Norton, who sits there as leader of the opposition, said he has no objections. Then what is the problem? Obviously, the race. Maybe they're comfortable with the acting Chief Justice, but they're not too comfortable with the acting Chancellor. They want to remove the acting Chancellor and put maybe Justice Rishi Prasad, who happens to be a friend of mine. I know Rishi. But they want to put Rishi in that position because during the elections, Justice Rishi Prasad, has been consistent in his pro-PPP voting. Consistent in his pro-PPP voting. So they want to put Justice Rishi Prasad there. That's the
But you see, that's the thing, Mark, and that's my fear, my hesitation, and my criticism about Guyana. Holding certain position means you have to disengage yourself for the time you have to make decisions. You have to disengage yourself from your political affiliation and recognize that you're holding a post where you're dispensing the law. And when you're dispensing the law, it has to be fair. It has to be without fear or favor.
You know, you say that, Miss Washington, not to cut you. And this guy comes to mind.
Yeah. Yes, Gino Prasad.
But here how Guyana is. And I know we have to go. Here how Guyana is. Justice Dino Prasad made a good ruling based on law. It was sound, based on the Constitution. We can't argue with that.
Yes.
But you let Justice Gino Prasad rule in what may seem favorable to the PVP, right? The same set of people praising him now going to start cussing tomorrow. That's the nature of things in Guyana. How do we change that mindset, man?
But
Seriously.
you know, Mark, if you do things based on the law, even if people try to criticize, there are gonna be people who are gonna stand with you and say, yes, you did the right thing. I just want to see people, judges, rule based on the law. I don't care which side it goes, as long as it's legally sound. That's what I care about. Doing the right thing, dispensing the law fairly, without prejudice, without fear or favor. That's what I'm concerned about. And that's the same thing that makes me passionate even in this country. I don't want to see discrimination in the law. So I don't care which side you go on, as long as I see, when I read the cases and I apply it to the facts, and I read the statute or the law and I apply it to the facts, I see that you've done the right thing. Case closed. Case closed. Whether you rule in my favor or not, I wouldn't protest that. If a judge is doing what is right, why would I protest that?
Fair enough.
You know?
Fair enough. Tomorrow happens to be a big day. Big day. In Manhattan, traffic jams, all manner of things. People will be looking to see what sort of arrest will be effected tomorrow. Donald Trump should be arraigned downtown Manhattan. In fact, I will be somewhere in the vicinity. Your take, would there be a mugshot? Would they actually put handcuffs on him? You're a lawyer. What is your take on that, the procedure?
Mark, I do not know. As I said before, I will reiterate it again. Criminal law is not my
I
strong
got
point.
you. My
I
apology.
do not like
My
when it
apology.
comes to criminal law. I stay away from it at all
My
costs.
apology. If there's a certain procedure, well, we'll see whether that procedure will be lenient towards the former president of the United States of America. But it's the first time in history. The first time in history. To all of you, thank you so much for listening. God bless you all. And Miss Washington, our in-house lawyer, as we would describe you, our in-house lawyer, feel free to give her a call. But here's your closing remarks as it pertains to Guyana, the rule of law, and the lack of democracy thereof. And even the lack of democracy, we're seeing ExxonMobil spending hundreds of millions of dollars, and the taxpayers of Guyana are the ones who have to pay for that. That money could have gone into proper roads, proper school system, all manner of things. Your closing remarks, please, ma'am.
I mean, I want to say thanks to all you listeners once again. I think you guys are awesome. You come out here and you share the link, you support the program, and that's how we keep the program alive. It stays, it continues to go as long as you guys continue to come and share. Always share the link every time you come. And I want to say thanks to all of you, even for your support, for those of you who've been using my office, coming for whatever your legal needs are. I want to say thank you so much for the support and the love. And I want to say I love you guys. And I want us to continue to, keep fighting, keep the fight alive, keep going, and don't give up, keep pressing, keep, being vocal about situations that's happening with Mr. Lewis. Let's keep supporting Mr. Lewis. Let's keep talking about it. Let's keep whatever way we can contribute to have our family go to whatever protest we know is going on in Guyana, and just support. Just keep supporting the cause and keep it alive. All right. I want to thank you guys once again, and a good night. Have a good night, all of you, and God bless you.
And again, thank you so much, Miss Washington, always for your time, even at the last minute. And I wish that folks will continue to support your business, to give you a call to deal with those matters. Landlord tenants, if there's some disgruntled landlord out there, call Miss Washington. If there's a tenant out there who might be peeping, and give Miss Washington a call if you're being taken advantage of, malpractices, whatever it is, give her a call. But she doesn't do criminal matters, period. She doesn't do that. But thank you so much, as always, Miss Washington. Have a good night.
Thank you, Mark. Good night.
Thank you. And to all of our listeners, we appreciate you taking time out to be here with us. Let us keep hope alive. Let's keep hope alive. And we've got to confront all forms of racism. We've got to confront persecution. It has to stop one way or the other. And we're glad that Mr. Takuma Ogunsi is home with his family this evening. He was placed on $100,000 bail for some frivolous charge, some attempt to incite racial hostility or some crap like that. We know it's a crap charge. That's why the magistrate placed him on $100,000 bail. But we'll be back tomorrow, same place, same time. And you'll watch all of the networks tomorrow. I'm not sure if you guys will have time with me on 107.1 FM, because you'll be busy on CNN, MSNBC, all those other networks, watching the arraignment of a former president, the first time in history, the arraignment of a former president, Donald Trump. All right. Love you guys. God bless you. Until tomorrow, same place, same time. So long.
Guyana really nice. Guyana, it's a nice place. Guyana really nice. Guyana, it's a nice place.
Basement level vibes with another one.
So this is attorney Shellen Washington, owner and founder of the Washington law firm located at 455 Utica Avenue in Brooklyn, New York. We're specialized in medical malpractice, personal injuries, matrimonial law, and landlord and tenant. If you're in need of legal representation, please give us a call today. The number to call is 718-877-3100. Consultation is free at no cost to you. So call us today to see if we can be of any assistance to your legal needs. Again, the phone number to call us is 718-877-3100.
Source.
Okay, well,
Maybe the Chinese company that did not get the agreement that they wanted here, maybe they're the ones who told you, or it could be just a fictitious thing.
Okay, well, let's talk about specific individuals. What is your relationship with Mr. Su Jerome?
Basement level vibes with another one, straight up blackness, aye. Who tell the truth? Mark Benscop, defend the ghetto youth. Mark Benscop, radio station is the fruit. Mark Benscop, straight up from the root. Mark Benscop, who tell the truth? Mark Benscop, defend the ghetto youth. Mark Benscop, radio station is the fruit. Mark Benscop, straight up from the root. Mark Benscop, I do it for the love, him not do it for no money. Straight up, him attack, educating everybody. Big up my friends and big up my family. Turn on the radio, catch the vibes, it's integrity. Straight up, Benscop stands for unity. One people, one nation, one destiny. Free up the truth in the air, even the blind can see. The deaf can hear, the dumb can talk, the cripple can walk. Boom. Who tell the truth? Mark Benscop, defend the ghetto youth. Mark Benscop, radio station is the fruit. Mark Benscop, straight up from the root. Mark Benscop, who tell the truth? Mark Benscop, defend the ghetto youth. Mark Benscop, radio station is the fruit. Mark Benscop, straight